The government wants proof before it lets you access parts of the internet. And the price tag on this new digital ID, 1.8 billion. All for a digital IT system that millions of people have previously battled against and basically won. But apparently, evil doesn't stay dead. It came back with a much, much better disguise. Protecting children. Won't anyone think of the children? And it's a very good disguise because for years, online verification basically meant, are you over 18? Click yes, done. Now, these days it can mean your face, your passport, your bank details, or the private company deciding whether you have, their permission to actually access that site you're trying to get to. And the new silver bullet to fix all of this is to make tens of millions of adults basically prove who they are, and they are in fact adults. And that's a big change because once this becomes normal, age is only the first question they're actually going to be asking. And we're already seeing what happens next. Some websites look at these rules and decide Britain just isn't worth the hassle. They block UK users outright, making the internet just that little bit smaller for UK citizens. And other websites actually simply shut down altogether, including one I found was a forum for people who help each other care for hamsters. Yes, hamsters. The owner said the rules seem to be built for large companies and not for little forums like theirs, and that's the ugly part because big companies like Google can hire lawyers, Meta can build another compliance team. A small website cannot. And regulation does have an entry fee, and billionaires can afford it very, very easily. So the law meant to control the biggest companies online can actually end up helping building an internet where only the biggest actually survive. And if a website doesn't want to build these checks in themselves, they basically have to hand the job to someone else. And that someone else is private companies you probably have never heard of. They check your face, they check your passport, they check your bank details, and then they tell your website, we've decided you can let them in. They're basically the internet's bouncers, except these bouncers can hold documents that basically prove who you are. And when holding those documents goes wrong, it does in fact go very, very wrong. And we actually already know what this looks like. A company handling Discord's age checks was actually breached. Around 70,000 passports and driving license images were potentially exposed. And these are the exact documents that criminals can actually use to pretend to be you. So, if you lose your bank card, you can cancel it. You lose a password, you can change it. But your face, your date of birth, your identity, well, good luck changing those. And this is the part no one seems to have an actual answer for. We're creating more places to store the proof of who you are, which means more places for someone to steal it. Because the more doors you actually basically build, the more keys there are to lose. And after all that money and complexity, and the passports are being exposed, and children are basically still getting around it. A good example of this is Australia has already banned under 16s from social media accounts. And according to its own regulator, around 7 in 10 children who had accounts before the ban still had one actually afterwards. So what's their answer? Well, it's actually a really simple one, and probably one you can guess. More restrictions, more checks, not just for the websites, but also app stores, the actual operating systems themselves, even the device. For example, Ofcom in the UK is already calling for exactly that. The bouncers basically started at the website. Now they want to actually be inside your phone itself. And every time the system fails, they take away a little bit more freedom each time and make that system much bigger. And this is where it starts to get a little bit ridiculous. So 75% of Britons support online age checks, but when the government scrapped its digital ID plans, actually 78% of them actually welcomed it. And nearly 3 million people actually signed a petition against digital ID. So people clearly don't want this. The problem is that they just don't recognize when it's actually wearing a different hat. Because once your phone can actually prove your age, why stop there? I mean, the UK's wider digital ID system already covers things like the right to work, the right to rent, even identity checks that do criminal record searches and lookups. So you don't actually need a digital ID card. Your phone can basically eventually become one. And suddenly that 1.8 billion from the beginning starts making a lot more sense because this was never really about one singular age check. It's about building a long-term system underneath it. So imagine your phone already knows you're 18. Now that same phone can be proved that you're allowed to work, or you're allowed to rent. And maybe one day in this hypothetical future, whether you're allowed to drive somewhere, today, because you're working today, so permission granted. Tomorrow's your day off though. The roads are busy. The system wants to cut congestion. Permission denied. And that's the part people are afraid of. Not the actual age check itself, giving someone else the power to say yes or no to a basic freedom we have now. And none of this has to arrive in one big giant ID digital system today. It doesn't have to be a big announcement. No moment where everyone actually agrees this is what we should do. It can basically happen one reasonable step at a time until eventually we've built the thing people are actually afraid of and fought against in the actual first place. And unfortunately, politics is already giving us far too many of those little tiny moments where, hey, it's one rule for thee and another for me. So giving the people making those types of rules even more control doesn't exactly fill me personally with a lot of confidence. And maybe more importantly than all of that, do you actually trust them to make those decisions for you in your best interest and for everyone around you? Let me know.